everyone, I'm Rachel and I'm very happy to welcome you to this virtual experience at Les Caves du Louvre. This virtual experience is part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is a 6-week celebration of the reopening of more than 100 museums and attractions in 6 countries around the world. These venues have worked around the clock to reimagine their experiences and introduce new hygiene measures to make it safe for you to visit again. And now they're rolling out the welcome mat with these online experiences so that everyone, no matter where you are, can join in the experience and reawaken their cultural institutions worldwide. So this virtual experience will start in just a moment, but since people are still joining us, I'll kick us off by just sharing some basic logistical information about what to expect and how to use Zoom. So first of all, we will have a time for a Q&A at the end. So prepare all of your questions about French wine and you can put them in the Q&A box, which you'll see a button that says Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Please submit all your questions there so that we can see them at the end. So don't use the chat, use the Q&A box. And then you can also actually vote on your favorite questions there. So if someone else asks a question you really like, give it a thumbs up and we'll be sure to ask the best questions first. As a reminder, this is a Zoom webinar, so your camera's not going to be on, but you can use the chat to communicate with us and your other attendees. Just in the chat, share to all panelists and attendees when you're pressing send, and then everyone else can see, what you're thinking and you can communicate together. If you have any technical difficulties, honestly, the fastest way to fix it is probably leaving and rejoining the call. But if there's anything that persists, just send a chat to all panelists and we'll take care of you really quickly. And then finally, this presentation will be recorded. We'll send out the recording to all the registrants in the coming weeks so you can share it with your friends who might have missed it. So that's all the technical stuff. Now we get to the fun part, which is drinking wine and enjoying French wines. So without further ado, I'm happy to hand it over to Les Caves du Louvre. Our hosts are Nicholas and Aureline, and they will transport us to the Caves du Louvre. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Let's go.
So bonjour and welcome to Les Caves du Louvre. My name is Aurélien. I'm going to be one of your two sommeliers, one of your two guides. So we're going to have an hour together. We're going to discover a very nice place. So if you don't know Les Caves du Louvre, this is a kind of museum. We don't like to say museum, but we like to say an experience. An experience to discover wine, French wines, of course, in a fun and interactive way. So first, I'm going to let you know a bit what we do. What can you do at Caves du Louvre? So you can do different kind of visits. The first visit that you can do is a self-guided visit. You can come every day because we open every day, 362 days per year. You can come every day in the afternoon and you can do a self-guided visit of Les Caves du Louvre. So you can come, you can download an app, it's a free app that will guide you towards Les Caves, make you discover, different things about the soil, the aromas, the wine, how to read a label of wine, etc. And to taste some wine, of course, at the end, where you can have a sommelier tasting 3 wines with them. So we have 2 options, classic and premium, but this we're going to talk about it later. We do also a guided visit, and this is a bit what we're going to do now. We're going to do a small guided visit. We won't give you all the information that we give normally, but it will be like let's say, a nice introduction to what we do. So the guided visit lasts normally 1 hour, and what is very, very fun about it is that we taste some wine during the visit. We taste 3 wines, so a lot to say. If you get bored by the sommelier, you can drink the wine, which is the good thing about this tasting and this visit. We do also some other kind of visits. We do a winemaking workshop when you can create your own wine, and we do also ultimate wine and cheese tasting. So now we're going to go inside the cellar because this is just the lobby. You're going to be with my colleague, Nicolas. We're going to introduce and begin this visit. Have a nice time. Enjoy the visit, guys.
Hello, I'm Nicolas. So as Aurélien said, I'll be the second sommelier for our visit today. So we're going to head downstairs in our cellars. So these cellars are underground. The internet might be a bit on and off. The cellars will head before our internet. Let's go. So we'll keep on going this way. So yeah, just mind your head, it gets a bit low. So here we are in the cellars. So here we're at the first floor of our 2-level cellars. So you'll find out when you visit us, there's nearly 800 square meters on the 2 floors, so it's quite a vast cellar. And at this level here, before we head downstairs and speak about wine, which will be the most main topic of our visit, I'm going to say a quick word about these cellars. We're in a fairly interesting venue. As we know here, you're inside the Les Caves du Louvre, which would translate in the cellars of the Louvre. And as you know, what is nowadays the Louvre Museum used to be the Royal Palace. And these cellars, on top of being quite close to that Royal Palace, have a real history according to the Louvre, as here was stored part of the wines for the court of Louis XIV and Louis XV, even that one was living in Versailles, not in Paris. And we will trace the history of this place till the 1650s. And at the time, the owner of the place was a very important wine merchant, and that gentleman was supplying the court, so quite an important person. And according to books of history, the wines were delivered by boat in the days, and everything for the court and the king especially were delivered on a bridge called Pont-Neuf, and that's literally down the road from us. From there, the wines were stored here, blended, aged, prepared, and then sent all the way to the Louvre, and that used to happen through one small tunnel, which is still partly there, so I won't tell you more. You'll have to pay us a visit to know a bit more about the history of this place. And today, it's been roughly 5 years that we've received public down here, and the idea is to offer an approach to wine by the senses that we use when we try wine. So most of this visit will happen downstairs. Down there, there's several rooms, and each one is for us an occasion to approach a sense that we use when we try wine. On top of the visits that we do down here, what Aurélien was mentioning upstairs, this place is also quite lively. We have a monthly gathering, which is called Du Vin à l'Œuvre. It's a nice evening around art and wine. As you can see, there's a bit of artwork around us here. So we have winemakers that come and introduce wines, and also artists which introduce a piece of art which was inspired by the wines tasted with the winemakers ahead here. So this place in the day is quite lively, and again the main focus is all about wine. So what we'll do is go back this way, we'll head downstairs and go and visit the bit more museum part of our venue. Let's go once again. Just nod your head again. So now we're going to head downstairs at the 2nd floor. And as said, at the 2nd level, you'll be discovering the wine by the senses that we use when we try wine here. So I'll leave it in the hands of Aurélien once again, and he's going to start introducing the first room of our small museum here. Here you go, enjoy.
So, welcome to this first room. This is the room of the soils. This is what we call the room of the terroir in French. So basically, in here, we wanted to show you a little bit the diversity of soils that you can have through France. So we went in different regions, different wineries, and we took part of the soil just to show you what's happening. Because you have to understand, in France, when we talk about wine, we always talk about the place. Where do the wine is coming from? This is the main thing when we're choosing wine. To understand, here I have a bottle. It's a bottle of French wine, and what is very tricky when you choose a bottle of French wine, you look at the label and you see no information about the grape. You are in France. We don't talk about grapes. Sorry for you guys. If you are choosing your wine, depending on the grape, this is not the way we do. If you like Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, you won't go through the grape to choose the wine. You have to go through the area. So why? Why is this reason? This is due actually to the soil mainly and to what we call the terroir. So let's have a look here. So just in front of you, you have the soil of Champagne. And the thing is, you have to know, the vine is a plant that can go very, very deep. When I say very deep, I mean like 5, 6, 7 meters deep. So what's going to happen? Those roots, when they're going to go deep, they will cross all those different kind of soil and subsoil, and they'll be fed by what they're going to find inside. The sediments, the minerals, the faunal, the floral, all those things, they're going to bring a specific taste to the grape and so to the wine. So this is the reason why we don't talk about grapes in France, because basically, if you plant your vine in a different kind of soil, you won't have the same expression, you won't have the same wine. So that's why we prefer to talk about the place rather than the grape. So how does it work? We call it in French terroir. Terroir is the main thing. If you want to understand wine, you have to understand terroir. So terroir, I'm very sorry for you, but I don't have the translation. So T-E-R-R-O-I-R, this is terroir. Terroir is a combination of different characteristics, which is going to bring a very specific taste to the wine. So those characteristics are the soil, of course, we just talked about it. The grape, the varietal of grape that you're going to use, that you know is going to be the best to fit with the soil, but also with the geography and the climate. Those are the 4 characteristics. And the idea is each terroir is unique, and each terroir will bring a very specific style of wine. This is how we classify a wine when you see the place in France we talk about the terroir. So if you want to be good in French wine, you have to be good in terroir. You see you're going to be good in geography too, but we'll see this after. So in this room, when you're going to visit us, you'll be able to know more about all those different regions and the impact of the soils on the wine. But I can give you like a little hint here with the Champagne region. So in the Champagne region, most people don't know, but 150,000 years ago, it used to be a sea. When the sea left the area, left a lot of limestone in the soil, and especially chalky soil. You know, chalk, it's like a sponge. If you cut some, you put it in your mouth, it's going to dry your mouth very quickly. And if you think about it, this is actually a sensation that you're going to have with the Champagne. This is due to the unique soil that you're going to find here. So yes, when you're going to visit us, we'll tell you more about all the rest. Of course, this is a very small sample. You have to imagine each area is a different terroir. You have also some nice boxes to do in here. It's quizzes that you can do along your visit. So for example, I can show you this. So this is a vine. The idea here is to guess the age of the vine. Can you? To figure it out, you're gonna have to visit us and find it out. Now we're gonna move toward the second room. This is the room of the aromas, and I'll leave you with Nicolas for this visit.
In this second room, we're going to focus on a sense which is very much needed when trying wine, the sense of smell. So we've noticed that on our daily life, lots of us anyway, the sense of smell is probably not the one we use the most. We tend to rely very much on our eyes, our sense of sight. It makes things much easier. I'm very sure with the fruit in front of you now, let's say an apple, most people will tell me, of course, it smells like an apple. But when you stop seeing what you smell, things get a bit tricky. And this is what happens when you taste wine. You do not see what you're smelling, and it forces us to use our olfactive memory and sense of smell. So as you know, it's not always easy to pin down aromas in wines. You've got different things coming up in the same time, and you're not using your sense of sight. So in an easy way, to make things a bit more readable, we usually kind of split the smell of wine into 3 main families of aromas. What we call the first, second, and third nose of the wine. So what we call the first nose is when the wine is just poured inside the glass without aerating it too much. And that will give you what we call the varietal aromas, which come from the grape variety which is used to produce the wine. And then when the wine aerates, when you swirl the glass, it'll open up the secondary notes. And these ones come a bit more from the wine making itself. And then when your wine breathes further more, it will open up on the third category of aromas, third dose as we call it. And that one is a bit more linked to the maturation and the aging of the wine. So here I've got a small tool to kind of make it a bit more readable. We've got a wheel of the aromas, as we call it. So the idea is to work with an idea of funnel. So you'll kind of first notice a family of aroma and then kind of funnel your way down, go smaller and smaller. That way you can pin down the precise aroma. So it's not all about smelling a glass of wine and saying, okay, this smells like lychee or melon. It's first off to think about white flesh fruit and then tropical fruit and then melon, kind of working your way down. And at the end of the day, it's a very personal experience. Everyone has its own olfactive memory. If you ask a lady from Japan to smell a glass of wine and a gentleman from Mexico on the other side of the world, you'll have very different answers, but not one is right, not one is correct. It depends very much on their own experiences, their own olfactive memory. And around us, we've got a small kind of game to kind of trigger a bit your sense of smell. So the idea, if you look at the side of the room, I've got a few on here, is that we've got these corks, so like we'll call them. You can kind of give them a smell, use your olfactive memory, try and name the smell from inside of this, and then you want to kind of replace it on one of the 6 matching palettes, and then you can double check underneath under the corks to see if the numbers match, if you're right, if you're wrong. And that allows us once again to kind of trigger a bit your sense of aromas. So due to the current atmosphere, hygiene specifically, this game is not available, unfortunately. It includes a lot of manipulation, so that's a bit of a shame, but hopefully things will get better in the future. So now we're going to slowly step into room number 3, our lab as we call it. And in this third room, you'll be with my colleague Aurélien once again, and then we'll start introducing different motions. Let's get going. Here we go. Please.
So welcome now in the taste room. So in the taste room, actually, the first thing that you have to do in here is to taste, but not to taste the wine. We keep it for the tasting room. That's the difference. Here you're going to be able to taste some different pipettes that will give you an introduction to the 5 primary savors that you're going to find in all things, not only in the wine, but also in the food. So you're going to find the sweet, the bitter, the acid, the salt, and the umami. What is very interesting in here is that you get actually a chance to taste it. We always taste it every day, but we don't know what's happening exactly in the mouth, where, etc. So this is a very good way for you to focus and get a better idea about what's happening in the mouth. For example, here if I take the sweetness, so basically sweetness, what does it bring in the mouth is kind of a heavy feeling, kind of a syrupy, so you can find it on the tongue, but also all along the mouth. So this way, the idea is that you're going to be able to find it out when you're going to taste wine or when you're going to eat. You can find also the umami. Umami is not very well known for us in our Western countries. It's the 5th savors that you can have, which is like more an Asiatic, I'm going to say, flavor. It makes you think about fish like soy sauce, for example, but it's a unique feeling that you actually can enjoy here. Unfortunately, this is not available right now because of the COVID-19, but we'll be very happy to welcome you again to try it. Now, let's have this. So now I'm in front of maybe our coolest wine workshop that we have in here. This is a winemaking workshop. So this is just a sample of what we do. But in here, you have the chance, you can have the chance to create your very own wine. So during 2 hours, we guide you. We taste some wine, so here you have 5 different grapes, and after we guide you in order to help you to find your very own blend, your very own creation. It is very nice. You'll be able to bottle yourself. You bottle it, you cork it, you wax it, and you live with it. So in a few weeks, it'll be available on Tiqets. So be ready to jump on the offer. Now, I want to focus on maybe what is the most important when we talk about French wine. I told you in the first room, in the room of the Dutch, the French wine map. You want to be good in French wine, you have to be good in geography. There is no other way. So when you look at the wine map of France, the first thing that you're going to notice is the big wine regions. So you're going to find all the wine regions in France. So some of them I'm pretty sure that you know. For example, Champagne, very close to Paris. So if you come to Paris, maybe you can go for a little day trip in Champagne, something very nice to do. So all Champagne in the world are coming from Champagne, nowhere else. If it's coming from somewhere else, maybe called a sparkling wine. This is different. Remember, it's the terroir. It's the terroir and also the way that we're doing the wine. But here we have Champagne. You can find also the Bordeaux wine regions in the southwest of France, or Bourgogne. Bourgogne, it's Burgundy, same thing, just that in French we say Bourgogne. So here I'm going to give you a few tips on how to read actually this map in order to choose wine. It's always very complex to choose wine. When you go in the store, you can get lost. So here, little tips to help you. So first thing, you can divide France into, from the center, you're going to have the north, you're going to have the south. So in the north, it's a cooler weather, so you're going to find much more white wines, much more single blends, and generally, the reds, they tends to be more on the light and on the fruity side. When you're moving south, it's getting warmer, so much more red wines, generally also much more like blends of different grapes, and the wines, they tend to be like your body, your body stronger. This is a very simple way to divide France, but it can help you, at first when you want to choose wine. Second thing, I told you before, in France, when we talk about wine, we don't talk about the grape. So how can you do if you just talk about grape? By knowing the regions, you can have an idea about the main grapes that can be used. For example, if we go in the southwest, in Bordeaux we have two main grapes. You're going to have the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Merlot. Cabernet Sauvignon more on the left bank, Merlot more on the right bank. If we look on the southwest in here, you will find the birthplace of the Malbec. Most people know the Malbec because of Argentinian wines, but actually it's coming from France, and you find it here in the southwest in Cahors. Moving here, it's the Rhone Valley. So Rhone Valley, you can see it's kind of divided into, the north is the home of Syrah or Shiraz. We're going to find very, very nice Syrah. In the south, you will find more what we call the GSM, Grenache, Syrah or Shiraz, and more red with amazing wines like Châteauneuf-du-Pape or Côte-du-Rhône. Provence, the home of the rosé wine, very popular right now. It used to be a French thing. You have to know, in France, we produce 30% of the rosé wine in the world, but we drink 35% of all the rosé in the world. Yes, we love rosé. Moving north, Beaujolais region, but we're going to stop here in Bourgogne, Burgundy, all about Chardonnay for the whites and Pinot Noir for the reds, and clearly some of the best in the world. Some of the most expensive too. Just to let you know, on this little area is concentrated 37 of the 50 most expensive wines in the world. Here it's Alsace. Alsace, you will find more like Rieslings, Gewürztraminers, Pinot Gris, which is the same thing that Pinot Grigio. So both on the dry and on the sweet side, a lot of people making the mistakes, to say, oh, it's a Riesling, it's on the sweet side. No, be careful. This is on the way that you're doing the wine. You can do dry or you can do sweet. It just depends on the moment of the harvest. We don't add sugar in a wine. It's not allowed in France. The way, it's just the moment of the harvest. If you wait to harvest the grape begins to dry, you get less juice inside, more sugar concentration, so more sugar at the end. So the way to have a sweet wine just depends on the moment of the harvest. Moving on the Loire Valley, you will find nice Sauvignon Blanc with Sancerre, for example, Chenin Blanc, more in the center of the Loire Valley, or Cabernet Franc for the rest. So you see, this is just a little help, but this can definitely help you when you want to choose wine. Depending on the grapes, you can have an idea about where to go. After, you're going to have to go But there, you're gonna have to go by the name of the area. This is the only way to really understand French wine. Yeah, we use a lot of grapes in France, 200 to 300 grapes. So this might be helpful. Now we're gonna move in the next room. So we're just gonna jump one of the room. It's the sound room. We won't stop in here because the stream is not very good, which is good actually because you're gonna have to come and visit us to find out more about this room. But now you're gonna go in the view room where we're gonna talk about color and label.
Okay, so as Aurélien was mentioning, in this room we'll speak about the sense of view and more specifically about the first step of wine tasting, which would be looking at your glass of wine. We don't want to drink it straight away, and that includes our sense of sight. And by looking at a glass of wine, you'll be able to understand two main informations. You can have a first guess on the age of the wine. Wine is a living product which is subject to oxidation, so the color of the wine will oxidize and change throughout the time. On this side of the room here, you've got a wall with different bottles which can illustrate, if my colleague filming would like to show us this one, the different colors of wine throughout the age here. So you can firstly have a thought of the age of the wine. And a second thing that you can have a thought of when you look at your glass of wine, you'll notice that there's kind of stains which appear in the side of the glass. These ones will be called the tears, the cries, or the legs of the wine. And those ones reflect the alcohol level and the potential sugar level if the wine is sweet. And basically, the thicker, the greasier the stains, these legs as we call them, the more full-bodied and the sweeter or the more alcoholic the beverage. So just by looking at a glass of wine, you'll be able to have a first guess on what you're going to be sampling. And as you've noticed around us, we've got lots of different labels, which also includes our sense of sight. You also use your eyes to look at these labels. And as we were mentioning throughout this visit, in France, what is highlighted is not the grape variety only, but the area where the wines have been produced. So if you have a look around at most of these labels, there won't be any grape varietals mentioned, but just names of areas. And let's say if you look at this one, it says Chambertin, appellation contrôlée ou controlled appellation. You have this one which says Ichison. If you're quite a lucky person, you might come across a Romanée-Conti, appellation Romanée-Conti controlled. And these three wines I've mentioned are all from the north part of Burgundy, and they're all three made with Pinot Noir, and they're all very enjoyable, but very different. But still, even then, it's still made with the exact same Pinot Noir. And again, what makes the beauty of these wines is not Pinot Noir only, but Pinot Noir in its entire environment. That terroir notion that Aurélien was mentioning a bit earlier, the soil, the climate, the landscape, which will provide a uniqueness to the wine. So here again, what we're looking at is where it comes from, not the grape varietal. If you come and pay us a visit and tell me, okay, I like a Chardonnay, fair enough, it doesn't help me too much. Chardonnay in the north part of Burgundy or in the southern part of France will be very different, but still very nice. So again, as we were saying, if you're interested in understanding French wine labels, you want to be pretty good on geography. So we won't push it too hard here. We can get a bit deeper. We'll do that when you pay us a visit here. So that way you can kind of understand, read the wine label and get around. Because if tomorrow you go to a restaurant or wine bar in Paris and you ask for a glass of Chardonnay, you might have a very nice surprise or not too much. Again, what we're looking at is where it comes from. So now speaking about wine, which is the main topic, we'll head in our barroom, our office as we enjoy calling it, and we'll speak about the wines that you may sample whilst visiting us. Let's go once again. And on top of visiting the area and tasting wines is quite a fun add-on that we also have here to kind of keep a track of this moment. We also do customized bottles, so we have a small photo booth there which will allow you to make your own label. So I'll let you, Aurélien, show you how all that goes.
I told you at the beginning, we have a very fun way to discover wine. There's a little photo booth, so you can have like a nice souvenir in Paris, so you want. Okay, we can switch. Here we go. Nice souvenir while you stay. Up, there you go. Oh, not very. And it's perfect. So what is good with this photo booth? We can print directly the photo on a label, and actually you can have it on every bottle you want. So now we are in the tasting room, which is of course the best part of the visit. We're going to be with Nicolas to taste some wine, but I just want to come back and tell you a bit more information about what we do here. So we did a guided visit. This is the only way right now to visit Les Caves du Louvre. Unfortunately, we have to stop the self-guided visit because of the COVID-19. So if you'd like to come and join us, you will have a tour like this one, but with much more information and the tasting. And now I'll leave you in the hands of Nicolas for the tasting.
So welcome here in the tasting room, the bar room, which is probably one of the most exciting, interesting parts of our visits. So in front of me here, I've got the two main selections that you'll be able to sample. So basically, we offer two main selections. Each time you'll be sampling 3 wines according on our mood and the seasonality also. So we've got our classic selection, and this one is a bit of a picture of how it happens out here in the daily life. You'll be sampling wines that we kind of go for on our daily life once again here. And on the other side there, we've got our premium selection. These ones are wines from a bit more prestigious parts of our vineyards, wines that we enjoy out here at specific moments during meals, kind of a bit more important wines here. So these two selections are different and allow you to have a glimpse of how it goes out here on the daily life, or otherwise on the bit more important moments here. So of course, here you'll be tasting these wines. On top of that, we also have on regular conditions, once again, a wine bar down here. We've got a selection of several wines for you to sample from. You can just walk down here, enjoy a glass of wine. But because of the current atmosphere, as Aurélien was mentioning, with COVID-19, this is not available, so you'll have to stick with the selections that we offer. And here we'll kind of taste a glass of wine together for you to have a quick memory. And basically, there's one thing that you can do is bear in mind what we call the 3S formula: see, sniff, and spit. So here I'll just pour myself a glass of wine. I probably won't drink it, just for the sake here. And as we were mentioning, the first thing you want to do is look at your glass of wine. So here, if you look at this glass of wine, you'll see a rather dark red, but still shiny ruby color. And as we were saying, the wine will change of color throughout the age. When red wines are young, they're very deep, intense, and shiny. As they go older, they kind of go clearer and clearer, end up being a bit more dull, kind of orangey brown in colors. Often discount as being a bit breaky here. So here I'm looking at a rather young wine here. And then, as I was saying, if you swirl your glass of wine, you'll see stains that appear. I don't know if you can get them on the camera here, but these ones will be called the tears, the cries, the legs. And as I was saying, they'll give you a bit of a hint on the intensity, the power of the beverage, if it's high in alcohol or sweet. So here I've got quite a bit of tears, so it's pushing me to believe that this might be quite rich there. And after you want to smell this glass of wine, if you remind what I was mentioning earlier, 3 main families of aromas: first, second, and third nose. So the first nose, everything linked to the grape varietals, so mostly fruit forward. Then the secondary notes coming a bit more from the winemaking. And basically, winemaking is an alcoholic fermentation. That's yeast which chews sugar and oxygen in the grape juice to create alcohol and carbonated gas. And that creates kind of bready, yeasty notes there, which will give a nice complexity to the wine. And then when you aerate it furthermore, it will open up on the third nose, as I was saying, and this comes a bit more from the maturation and the aging. And to mature wines, winemakers have 2 main options. Or they'll use tanks, stainless steel tanks more and more nowadays, or otherwise oak barrels to kind of muscle up, give a bit more body to the wine and help it to age. And as you may know, barrels are burnt, they're charred, and that gives an extra set of aromas to wine, which are called empyromatique, no idea the translation of that, and that gives you a nice kind of smoky, woody atmosphere, a bit more body to the wine, and it helps the wine to age a bit more because it will give a bit more structure and especially more tannins to the wine. Tannins are naturally found in wood, so the barrel will release tannins and give wine a bit more keeping capacity once again. So once you have in the session of the smell of the wine, you want, of course, to give it a taste. So the idea is to take a nice mouthful of wine, to kind of swirl it all around your palate, and then on my side of the bar, you have to spit it out. On your side, it's your choice there. And then you want to have kind of a sum up of your feelings, kind of understand a bit the balance, texture of the wine. And one very important thing is that you want to have a bit of an enjoyment of the length of the wine, if the aromas stay with you or if it vanishes quite fast. And as you know, out here we have our wines during our meals mostly, so we want the aromas to stay as long as possible on the palate to enjoy the combination of the wine and food pairing. We're not going to have the wine and the food in the mouth at the same time, so the longer the aromas stay, the better it is. And two things will help the wine to kind of keep length on the palate: the acidity, that's a bit more for the white wines, and the tannins in the red wines. So basically, the longer it stays, once again, the better it is to enjoy the food and the benefit of the match of the two here. So of course, you'll be able to kind of push this wine tasting experience by visiting us. So from this room, we'll have to leave it at a certain stage. We'll head back up the stairs and we'll go in our wine shop and kind of sum up a bit what we've been mentioning here today. Let's keep going. So we'll go through this way. So after the wine tasting, stairs always feel a bit steeper on the way out. And then a few question and answer. I'll join you in a second. I'll let you discover the shop with Aurélien.
So, welcome to our wine shop. It's why we're going to call actually a caviste in France. This is the name of our wine shop. So, French wine shop means French wine. You know, we drink 90% of the time French wine. So if you come in a French wine shop, you won't find, like wines coming from abroad. Maybe you will find wines coming from Spain or from Italy. This is when we get crazy. Generally, we drink French wine. So the way it's organized, it's a bit the same way that what we were talking downstairs. It's organized by region. So every time you look for wine, you look first for the region, depending on what you want. For example, you like those Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux, which are like rich, intense, and tannic. You have to look directly on the Bordeaux shelf. And you're gonna have all the wines coming from Bordeaux. The tough thing is, when you look on the bottle, you don't have the region, you have the place directly. This is the reason why I'm telling you, you need to be good in geography. You need to know the places where you like the wines, actually. So every time it's organized by region, Bourgogne, Burgundy, the red, white. I'm gonna find, for example, the Rhone Valley, also on this side. Rhone Valley, a bit of sweet wines, Beaujolais, Champagne, etc. This is typically what you're going to find in France. So when you want to choose wine, remember what we were saying downstairs. depending on what you like. You want a white, maybe let's go north. So have in mind, you know, the wine map, that it's pretty easy. If you don't have it in mind, you have your smartphone, you can Google it and have an idea about the region where you want to go. Or do remember, you know, the names of the place where you like the wine. So it's a good way for you to explore and to find those wines. So here you have a very nice selection of wines. As my colleague said, we love to work with a lot of boutique wineries. We have a lot of wineries in France. And here, just a small sample. We have 300 different wines, actually up to 1,200 with our wine bar called Au Château, or our restaurant called Mordu, where you can find a much larger selection. You will find, of course, the wines that you tasted downstairs. And if you want to bring some back, you know, we do the duty free. We have some very nice luggage, specially designed to go, you know, directly in the plane. We also do shipping, and if you really don't have any space to bring back some wine, no worries, we're doing small samples, vineyards. So this is a very good way to taste like a few different wines back home without having all the bottles. So this is it. This is the end of the visit. I hope that you enjoyed this visit. This is actually a little sample of the visit because we say much more. It was a lot of trouble for me and Nicolas trying to slow down the visit and not give you too much of information. But I hope you had a good time. I think now it's time for questions and answers. So my colleague Nicolas is now here with me to answer all your questions.
And we have quite a few questions. People are just over the moon about this tour. They've absolutely loved it. I don't think we'll be able to get to all of the questions. So just a reminder for those of you on the line to vote for your favorites. So we ask the best ones first. But the first question is actually about visiting. So Daniela wants to know, can we book a tour of the caves, or can they just walk in? How long about does the normal tour take?
Okay, so as I said at the beginning, so self-guided tour is not available. So you need to book in advance. You cannot walk in. You have to make a reservation. So every day we have guided tour in English. Only one slot, unfortunately, right now. But you can book in advance on tickets directly on the slots during the week and during the weekend.
Great. And then the next most popular, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add the first question also. She was curious about the time of the visit. So our visits will last for an hour to an hour and 15 minutes roughly.
Perfect. And then the next most popular question is, what are the most and least expensive wine regions, generally speaking?
So in France, we're very lucky. You can buy a bottle of wine for a couple of euros. I probably won't recommend that. You can spend a couple of grand on a bottle of wine too if you're in that mood. But the most expensive, the most prestigious wine regions will probably be the Pinot Noir from the very north part of Burgundy, or otherwise outstanding red wines from the left-hand side river in the Bordeaux area, au Médoc typically. And then I wouldn't say one region will produce especially cheaper wines, but a region which offers great value for money will be a bit of an upcoming region, the southern part of France, the Languedoc area and the Rhône area. Wines are quite available, affordable, and a great value for money. And again, cheap does not always mean bad wine. You're in France here.
Great. And then the next question, so someone both wants to know if both of you are sommeliers, and either way, what it takes to become a sommelier.
You need, first of all, to drink a few glasses of wine.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. We drink a lot. That's the first thing. After, maybe we can say a bit more about us.
Our background,
For example, myself, I'm not coming from the wine. I did actually a business school. I'm more like a marketing and communication guy. But I felt in love in my first job. I was working for a big winery in the south of France, and through the time, through the tastings, through the good contacts with the good people, amazing winemakers and somebody, I had the chance to learn a lot about wine. I traveled also in New Zealand, in Australia, and through the time, through also graduation. I began to.
And I wear two caps, if I may say. First off, started training as a winemaker. I've got a winemaking degree. I spent a couple of years working as a winemaker, as what people enjoy calling a flying winemaker, most of my time in the south of France, and then on the other side of the world, Australia and New Zealand most of the time, and back and forwards. And then I came back to home in France and studied a bit more the marketing, the trade of wine. And I have a trade degrees for wine, and I've got a sommelier title, not French, but an English version of that. So yeah, that's what brought me to wine, basically.
So to become sommelier, or you can choose it directly. You can go like, for example, to hospitality and you choose a specialization as a sommelier, or like most of the people that are working in here, actually, we came through experience, of course, and through just we love wine. This is the only thing. We love wine, and through the time, yeah, we just, you know, learn everything about it and love to talk all the stories that you have around the wine.
Amazing. On the note of different types of wines from different places, Anne-Marie says that generally speaking, it's her impression that French people do not like Californian wines in particular. And she's wondering if that holds true, and why is that? Do you think that they don't like the terroir? So learning from what you shared earlier.
I wouldn't say French people globally don't like Californian wines, but it's just wines which kind of meet different expectations. And again, as I said, we're quite lucky. We've got an incredible offer out here. And yeah, French people are quite proud, if I may say, and they'll often go with French wines. But yeah, if you push them into it and kind of allow them to open up their minds on wines from a bit all over the world, it works. But yeah, again, if you ask a French person which wines are the best, 9 times out of 10 the answer will be French, of course. Can't beat that.
And also the thing is, we cannot, you know, enjoy Californian wines on a daily basis. Here we have a lot of wines in France. This is meaning also that we have very affordable wine. When you bring wines, you know, from California, when you add the taxes, the middlemen and everything, those wines, they're going to be in front of what we're going to call our premium wine. And a French will never pick a wine, doesn't know about it, will pick a French wine. This is another reason too, we don't get a lot of Californian wines in France. But when they travel French, they love to discover. So for sure, when they're going to go in California, they'll be sure to stop by the Napa Valley or the Sonoma Valley to taste some. Maybe buy some, but not back in France.
Great. One person has a clarifying question from a part earlier in the tour. She's wondering, did you say to put chalk in your mouth to dry it out before tasting? Was that something that you said?
No, I was saying like the sensation that you have in the mouth when you put some, which is the sensation that you can have when we drink champagne. Okay, just a little example to give you what can happen in the mouth.
The sensation is similar, not to actually put chalk in your mouth.
Exactly. No, do not do this. Okay, don't add anything in a wine. Wine is good enough. Huh? You don't add anything, not even ice cube. This is not good. Not a good idea. Or don't do it in front of the French people.
Angela wants to know, what is the most expensive wine that you have in the cellar in the store there?
I have it downstairs. It's coming from Bordeaux, and it's Petrus. Petrus is one of the most exciting French wine, one of the most well-known, and one of the most expensive. I don't have the price in mind, but it might be something between 4,000 and 5,000 euros. If you want to come to visit us, we open the daily.
We'll give you a price, Amanda.
Great. And then Patricia wants to know, is it common to create blends of grapes from different regions?
We do blend grapes, but not from different regions. As we're saying, out here we pay attention on the terroir, the environment where the grapes are growing. So if you start mixing grapes from different areas, you kind of erase that uniqueness, you kind of hide that terroir notion, and it doesn't go too much with how it goes out here. So if you buy red wine from Bordeaux, the grapes will come from the Bordeaux area and only. If it says Bordeaux and the grapes come from other parts of the country, it won't have the typicity, the signature of the Bordeaux wines. So out here, we do not mix regions like it might happen in New World countries, as you may know.
And it's actually kind of not allowed. When you see the name of the place, it's not allowed to bring some grapes coming from another region.
Okay. And then Cadence wants to know, so The tiers, as I think you're looking at the glass, the tiers mean it's rich, she says. Does rich wine mean that it's strong, that it's higher in alcohol content? What is meant by that?
So basically, it'll mean that it has more body, a bit more character, a bit more intensity, and yeah, more everything, including more alcohol, will produce wines with a bit more intensity, a bit more generosity. And yeah, it says basically it's more powerful. Power and quality are not correlated. You can have very delicate, very fine wines which are beautiful. Some other wines will be a bit more intense, a bit darker. But yeah, it just tells you, it just gives you a hint on the character of the wine, if it's going to be powerful, strong, rich, mouth-filling, or otherwise this is going to be a bit thinner, a bit lighter. I hope that answers.
Yeah, I think so. Anne-Marie wants to know what elements are involved in pairing wine to the course in a meal.
That's that's the most difficult part of our job of sommelier. It's very hard. You have to know that some things are naturally going together and some are not. So you need to know a lot about the different stages. We can take maybe an example.
An easy way of doing it, I reckon, is to go with an idea of balance. If you've got something, let's say, let's say a piece of cheese. I'm sure she loves cheese. Very aromatic, full-bodied French cheeses, which are sometimes a bit bitter. You probably would want a wine which is nice and smooth, with probably even a hint of sweetness to kind of balance the bitterness of the cheese there. So it's all about creating a kind of a balance here. But after wine tasting and food pairing is a very personal experience and an endless game, as Aurélien was mentioning. And at the end of the day, the main focus is to have a good time with what is in your glass and what is in your plate. As long as that is done, that's the job done. But yeah, there's a few rules, and it's all around finding a kind of a balance between what is in the plate and what is in your glass. But again, if you want to know more, come visit us.
And I have to say there is no one pairing actually. There are so many pairings because most of the time we're going to say, okay, red wine is coming with red meat, white wine is coming with fishes. Okay, this is a general, way to think about the pairing. But now we can do everything we want, and everything is possible. You just need to find the good one, and when it's working, when you have the good balance, as Nicolas was saying, it's amazing. I have to say, wine is going to enhance the food, and food is going to enhance the wine balance again.
Yeah, we spend most of our time eating and drinking.
Oh yeah, in France we don't drink just like this. We drink with food. This is very important. Very rarely you're going to see a French people enjoying wine without having the food. This is clearly not in our tradition. We love wine and food goes together. So we eat and drink a lot.
Naturally. On a similar note, Angela wonders, should you have a different wine for every course of a meal typically, or do you pair one wine with a full meal?
Again, hard to give you a straightforward answer. There's not one rule. Some wines are very versatile and they kind of suit different dishes. Again, it depends on the dishes. If you start with seafood and then go ahead on a very spicy curry and then finish with a kind of ice cream. It depends on what is in the plate, if it has a kind of a balance. And yeah, why not? If you're lucky enough and not going back in the office in the afternoon, have a glass of different wine with each dish. I'd recommend that.
Yeah, this is for sure a very nice way to have a good experience. I was talking about experience a lot in this visit, but this is why you go, for gastronomic food. You don't just go for the food. You want to go also, for the nice glass, nice pairing that will be made by the sommelier to just enhance all the experience. So yeah, it's a bit connected to what we were saying before.
Great. And then on a different note, Lauren from Oklahoma wants to know, what is the best temperature to drink wine?
Sorry, we didn't hear somebody.
No worries. I can repeat the question. So Lauren wants to know, what is the best temperature to drink different types of wine?
Okay, so usually for white, I'm going to go in between 8 and 12 degrees Celsius. So sorry, it's Celsius, don't have the Fahrenheit. And for a red, you can go in between 16 and 20, 21, depending on the wine. So a good way maybe for you to remember, because we don't always have something to have the temperature of the wine. A white or rosé wine, you can keep it in the fridge, but the fridge is too cold actually. So half an hour before service, you take it out. A red wine, you can leave it at the room temperature. Room temperature is generally too warm, so half an hour before you put it in the fridge, it's going to level down a little bit the temperature, so they have a good temperature.
That's a great rule of thumb. So a few questions around the harvest. Angela wants to know if there's ever been a year that there hasn't been a harvest. And similarly, someone wants to know, is the harvest coming up soon?
So the harvest is ongoing right now. In France and Europe, basically, harvest will go through mid-August to mid-September. The more south you go, the earlier it starts, and the other way around as you go up north. And as far as I know, there hasn't been a year without any harvest at all. There's been pretty bad years in terms of quantity levels due to climatic hazards with very small yields, so very small production, but not as far as I know anyway.
Great. And then a couple questions on the regions. One person wants to know what's the most popular region for wine sales, and then someone else wants to know what is each of your favorite regions to visit.
For wine sales, so we're going to say maybe there are a few regions. Maybe the most well-known one is Champagne. Actually, Champagne is clearly the place where we're going to say more wines. Very popular in France, very popular in UK. Actually, English people are drinking maybe more champagne than we do. Bordeaux and Languedoc. Languedoc also is a big wine region, also in terms of production. It's the first area of production in France. So for sure, it will be like very popular. So let's say in between those three regions, after in terms of sales, it's going to be like very hard to give you like a good figure. And for the second part of the question,
which one region do you like visiting?
For myself, I'm a huge fan of terroir, so definitely you're going to have to go through the Rhone Valley and go on the north. You're going to find some very nice, elegant, bit concentrated terroir, some of the best in the world. It's clearly my place. And if I have to put a coin on a bottle, it'd be a quatre rôti, but not every day, sometimes. By you?
I'm quite open-minded. I travelled around the French wine regions quite a bit for work purposes, as you guess. And something which struck me recently is the Alsace region. The beautiful white wines have got a very wide diversity, and food out there also is beautiful. As we were saying, wine and food completely go together. And yeah, usually after a glass of wine and a bit of food, people can tend to be quite, you enjoy the time that goes. And all French wine regions are beautiful. They just offer a different scenery and different wines. So if I have a recommendation, yeah, book a ticket and visit the different wine regions. Even this year is a bit of a tricky one.
Fabulous. Okay, time for just one more question. A little bit, I'll do two in one. So about the age of the vines. So one person wants to know if older vines give better grapes for the wine. And then someone else wants to know if you can figure out the age of a vine by just counting the rings on it, if you were to cut it like a tree, or if how you know the age of the vine.
So I'm going to answer the second part, you will answer the first part. There is no ring on actually a vine. So downstairs, when I actually show you, you cannot really see it. It's more like a plant than a tree. This won't be like the best way.
Je pense qu'il est comme quand tu penses une boîte, c'est des cercles. Ouais. Ouais. And so the first part of the question was, sorry?
It was, do older vines create kind of better grapes for wine?
So I wouldn't say better, different. Basically, over the years, over half a century or more, the plant will lose a lot of vigorosity or produce less, but less fruit means more concentration. All the energy of the plant goes towards producing a fewer grapes, but therefore a bit more concentrated. So produce wines with a bit more depth, a bit more intensity. Not saying that younger vines will create bad wine, but a bit fresher, a bit more easy to understand, let's put it that way. Not better, but different.
Fabulous. So that was the last question that we have time for today, unfortunately. Thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom and love of French wine with everyone. Everyone was very enthusiastic in the comments about the experience, so thank you. This virtual experience was part of the Tiqets Awakening Weeks, which is a 6-week celebration of more than 100 museums and attractions around the world reopening. So if you're in France, do go and visit them. So visit the Les Caves du Louvre, visit all of the venues participating in the experiences this week. You can visit the tiqets.com/blog/awakening weeks for more information on how to visit in person, more virtual experiences happening, and more information about, you know, all of these fabulous activities. So again, thank you so much to Les Caves du Louvre. Thank you to everyone who's joined us this evening, and we're really looking forward to finding more ways to experience culture with all of you soon.
Bye.
Cheerio. Bye-bye.